right, so let's take on this training topic for us for tonight. This is one of the segments that Queso does on a weekly basis, and I think there's some really good reminders in here for us. So as we look at taking it on like a business, let me see if I can get this to advance. Okay. First of all, reminder for our invitations for Solid Start, which is coming up a week from, well, it's 2 weeks from tonight. So let's be focusing on who are the people. We continue to add and adjust the topics there. So just a reminder that that's coming up. And then when we talk about treating our business like a business, this is another thing that we haven't talked about a lot, and that is scheduling huddles. I think that Medorans do a really good job with this with their team, but the idea is connecting weekly with your business leaders and even setting up a time where it's a maximum of 30 minutes. It can just be 20 minutes to update and review the activities, what's working, what's missing. It doesn't have to get into very long, extensive things. Are there things that we can do to follow through on? But just actually scheduling those huddles on either a regular basis or by appointment. And so I like that phrase of huddles. And then the idea of being a professional, that treating it like a business. So a part of this begins with the mindset. And that first part is really making time for it. I was talking to somebody earlier today that goes, well, this got in the way, this got in the way, this got in the way, this got in the way. I get it. But what level, where does the business fit in? And making time for it, carving out the time that's needed. And maybe it's doing like Tom Chenault does and says, I'm going to connect with X number of people every morning just to get it done. Then the second part is focusing on the big picture. And this, when we take our leadership circle, the very first part is trust, and that's developing trust in the products and the company. But the second part of it is, what is the purpose? Why in the world are you even doing this? What is the objective? And getting clear about what is the purpose, what are the goals, what are the targets? Because if we are not working with our prospective candidates or partners with knowing what it is they want to do, we're just ending up scrambling around going, well, why don't you do this? And why don't you do that? And why don't you try the other? But we don't have a specific objective that is their objective. So I want to know what their big picture is. And then putting 100% commitment into the team building part of the business and not just the product part. And David did a good job with that, bringing in both the product and the business side and the importance of what would it be like if you were able to work with some other people. But what we get to remember is having a high enough level of focus that is our purpose. And it is always going to have to start with and include the trust in the products. So it's not like we're overlooking that, but we're looking at who's going to create some income and partnering. And then looking at the idea of creating a lifetime career that's built to last. I picked up an article today from, I don't know, one of the publications about whatever they talk about, the great resignation where people are resigning. And here's a list of 6 or 8 people that started different projects. And I thought there are 2 things that are in common about that. One of them was that they had taken on sort of an entrepreneurial venture, but the second, which is different from going to work for somebody. But the second part that was common was none of them had any ongoing income out of it. All of them were independent contractors doing certain things, but none of them was there a built-in possibility of creating additional ongoing income. And that's where the 4-year career comes in. And that's where creating the vision of understanding it's not just something you're going to put energy into at the beginning, but something that can continue to pay off. So then when we look at our onboarding circle, we remember the words that that helped me. The first one has got to be building up for trust. And that is our brand loyalty. That has to be something that is in place. And obviously, if we devote a substantial enough commitment to that, what we will end up with is, whether it is someone who goes on to create additional businesses or not, if we create that level of trust, we have the opportunity to create a really good, solid consumer out of it, because we've developed that. So instead of having a consumer base of people that buy $60 once every 3 months, you can develop a consumer base of people that are using $200 or $300 a month on a regular basis on a loyalty, because they've developed the trust in the products, regardless of where else they go. So the next step is that purpose. Why are they're creating a business? What do they want to accomplish? And maybe it is ongoing income, maybe it's whatever project it is, but that's where connecting with their goals, dreams, and visions. And then, who are the partners that we get to work with? Who are the people that get to be recommended to us? Who are the people that we're attracting, whether it's personally, through social media, whatever our method is. But that's what we want. We want recruiters who create recruiters. We want people who create connections, who create people who create connections. And then, of course, we go on and do the big picture and the rest of the pieces of it. But I got 2 pages of that. Plugging into the system. So that's really what Solid Start is all about. So let's look at that. Let's start and talk about the importance of the pantry inventory. People love to say, well, Elizabeth, you don't have to keep any inventory. And I go, what do you mean you don't have to keep any inventory? No, you don't necessarily have to keep inventory, but you certainly don't go to the grocery store and only buy like 1 stick of butter or 1 thing of paper towels. If they're things that you're always going to be using, don't you buy those in bulk? You buy, 2 or 3 cans of coffee when it's on sale. So what we want to do is our pantry inventory becomes our backup supplies. I don't stock products that I don't personally use, unless there's an absolute huge demand from someone. And I don't do very much of that, because they may be fickle and I may end up with a product that isn't something that I currently use. So my pantry inventory is products that I get to bring to take home for me, because that's also most likely what I'm going to be promoting and talking about. So one of the things that we get to remember is, if we are starting a person on an ambassador role, there's some really good starter packs, one of which is $1,000 starter pack. And that may, for some people, go, oh my gosh, am I going to spend $1,000? For many of us, when we started our business, it was like, if you're going to start a business, you got to put in $3,000 at least. So starting with a starter pack of products that people invest in is not that big a deal. And it gives them a more well-rounded opportunity to have the products. They do have them at like a reduced price that can be jump starting their starter order. It also creates some backup supplies. I do a lot of samples now, but I do it all with products that I'm getting from loyalty orders. So when I go to redeem my loyalty points, it's all on stuff that I give away. Mostly it's low PV. It's things that you can stick a couple of sticks of energy or bars or chews or whatever. I don't ever put on loyalty products that are core products. I put in products that will be samples, that are things that we can give away. So you can show them to people. And then remembering that pantry inventory, when we start thinking like a business entrepreneur, that can also lead us into the tax benefit category. Because if you were exploring a business, this is the return on investment of your product purchases, and understanding samples and loyalty rewards. But it also is, if you're choosing to consider a business, anything that relates into considering of getting that business started can put you in a category of having tax deductions for some of these things. And that's an education factor and a mental piece that we get to remember when we do treat this like a business. So what about our money management? If we're going to have a business, it makes sense to have some kind of a business separate account. Now, that may be the account that you use for Venmo or Zelle or anything else, but it is something that is set aside separately. It may be where your electronic payments are going in if you get things from the company, but it allows us to have something that controls our business. And yes, you can generally, if you are wise, can generally find a place that you can get a separate checking account, business account. But maybe it isn't even an official business account, but it's one that's set aside with your name that just says, you know, special purposes or whatever. But separating our money so that then we can plan our business and investments and our expenses every month. And those include, like, how much are you paying for your personal website or for any other contract things that you're doing, whether it may be networking tool chest, it may be MC mentors, it may be subscriptions to Chicago, it could be contact mapping, it could be paying for your it could be paying for your cell phone, it could be IT support from your website, whatever it is. Those are your basic monthly expenses that when we think about it like a business, those become business expenses. Those are not pre-tax dollars, those are after tax. And then we handle our product sales strictly on a cash basis. We can set up electronic ways to collect our money, regardless of which way it happens to be. And we can set aside some money for these tools and registrations and for our personal development, for our subscriptions, for our consulting, for whatever it is. And let me just stop. If there's some questions or comments on this as we go along, raise your hand or speak up. I can't see everybody, so, and I also can't see the chat. So somebody stop me if there's anything that you feel like you want to add, or I'll just keep going through and then we can come back. Our focus, scheduling these weekly meetings and monthly commitments. I think one thing that I am noticing is happening more and more with our active groups is they're beginning to schedule actually some home events or some monthly events or a breakfast or a brunch or a coffee or a dessert or a pre-holiday something, that we're beginning to schedule things like that come on a regular basis. So scheduling our weekly meetings, I value the fact that you all make the commitment to be here on Tuesday night. That is what we all do. And it's kind of a refresher. It's like, okay, we're going to plug in. I'm sure there's virtually nothing here that you have not seen before, but maybe it's a reminder, just like Bonnie said, hey, maybe I can go back and look at this again and also think about maybe this is something I want to be sending and making available to my next generation people, because sometimes we just forget this stuff. So our coming together on our Tuesday nights and having this just be our plug-in leadership. You do it for choir practice, you do it for Boy Scouts, you do it for whatever else. It's like, this is leadership time. And then we can learn to tap more into the strength of social media, which obviously you guys, Richard and Jerry, you guys are doing a great job with that. And then teaching our business leaders where and when to connect with corporate support. Sometimes it's better it's better to have people come to us and ask the question before they start going to the company, because they may not get something that is consistent or that's really helpful. It may save them some time. We may be easier to reach than going on to a long hold and waiting on the phone for 45 minutes or something. So teaching our business leaders where to go and what to do. And then when we look at monitoring and our record keeping, obviously we want to keep an eye on our personal volume, our PGV and our OV. I had a conversation earlier today with one of our team, and I said, what if your objective is to close your month with your basic PV by the 15th of the month, so that the second half of the month is all gravy, so that there is none of this thought about, oh my gosh, what if? So set your target and have it done by the 15th of the month. And not only that, but make sure that each go and start looking at where people are for their loyalty rewards and find out what their title is, particularly if it's someone who has been around for a while. Because if their title is in as distributor, they only get points if they order in the first 15 days of the month. So you get two choices. You either make sure they do that, or you go and you retitle them and you go through the process of having them change to being a preferred member. But take a look at the loyalty rewards and look at how you can take advantage of those. And then consulting and coaching with your business leaders and your KBLs. Ray and Barb do an outstanding job with that, just being in touch with people and then keeping track of our consumers and business leaders. I'm still struggling to make sure that I know whose loyalty rewards are coming up and make sure that somebody looks at them and make sure that they've got exactly what they want. Because, for example, if I put on my loyalty reward this month 2 boxes of carbo bars and a thing of energy chews and 2 things of tea, and I put those on for loyalty points, the next month they're going to show up as though I'm reordering them. You have to go and keep your order clean. So you go back and change it. No, I don't want to order it. I want to put that on loyalty again. So we need to watch out for that. And we need to be continuing to educate people what time of the month are they ordering. And then really just being able to, did I skip something here? No. Really just being able to remind ourselves, what's our purpose? Why are we doing this? And the gifts that we're able to give to people, product-wise and business-wise. And I like this phrase, we'll never change our life until we change something that we're doing daily. So the secret to our success is really found in our daily routines. What are the things that we're doing that we consistently want to support? So we know what our basic parts of our leader development circle are. We know what's there. And then we are reminded, and David did a great job for getting us started on the importance of telling our story. Learning how to effectively tell our story in a concise way that gives people an option of going, oh, well, that's interesting. And, maybe they want to know more or not. But our stories are the things that sell. Learning how to effectively tell those stories. And then plugging into ways to do a business overview. What is the way that you're going to present the business when somebody wants to sit down, get comfortable doing your own small group presentations? We're going to do some more with this on what does an in-home presentation look like? You would think that after all the 100 years that we've all done them, we would have them in our back pocket. But I don't know about you, but then we got kind of rusty on those. We didn't do any of those for quite a while. And now if we're going to be prepared to do some group presentations, to me, it's having a little bag, having a little tote bag that has maybe a couple of the products that I'm going to demo or a couple of the brochures or things, just having something that can be in hand, let people touch and taste and feel. What are the things that we want to have available for these kinds of presentations?